we have Karthik Konath from California in Austria.
Was
England is Evan Swihart.
was Kartik Austria in round one?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. So I
Okay.
believe that David Miller is doing all of the board assignments by hand. So I don't know if that's part of it or it just worked out with this player set that somebody played the same power twice. Yes, Kartik, I believe, was Austria. England's Evan Swihart from Cincinnati, Ohio. France, we have Jason Mastbaum from Los Angeles. Germany, we have Christian Brown from Peoria, Illinois. Italy, we have Tim Richardson from the DC area. Russia, we have John Anderson from Utah. And Turkey, we have Nicolas Sahuguet from Montreal. So this will be a fun board. Anything about these players that you want to comment on, Adam or Siobhan?
I would just say, yikes! I mean, this is a tough board. Yeah, I think we're having some technical difficulties, but I mean, I think it's a really rough draw for Karthik if he drew Austria again after topping the board in the first round and being one of the tournament leaders, especially to other people in contention like Nicolas in Turkey. I think he may have a very tough time going at this because just the tournament players may be very eager to jump in that direction. So I think that's really tough and probably unfortunate that he got the same power twice and that it's Austria here.
Yeah, well, especially with Nicolas Sahuguet in Turkey, with John Anderson in Russia. I mean, Nicolas has a fantastic chance to say, hey, John, we're both very strong players. Let's just RT and roll. And if they do it right, Nicolas could get a good board top and win this tournament if he wants it.
Yeah, that's always the interesting question. When you've got two veteran players right next to each other, do we ally and race each other for the top, or do we try and go at each other? And sometimes just going at each other, those top players cancel each other out instead of having a big result. So it'll be interesting to see. Adam, why don't you go ahead and take the lead here in spring of 01?
So we don't see Galicia left alone as we had seen so many times in round one. Well, Austria didn't move there, I guess, is saying something, but in fact, Russia does, which is, Austria opts to cover Trieste while Italy actually moves to Piedmont. This looks like everybody agreed to go attack France type of thing. We see English Channel, Burgundy, Piedmont, which English Channel was sniffed out, but not the others. So a rough start for France, but actually not unrecoverable. So we'll see. Bounce in the Black Sea. Everything else looks okay.
We have yet another game where Austria does not move to Galicia. I think this is definitely a trend. So, Siobhan, what are you observing here?
I think that it's a little early to sniff out overall trends, but I mean, Russia's going to get Sweden. They're in Galicia. That's a great place to be in spring of 01 as Russia immediately off the bat. And so are we going to see that RT? And if so, how is it going to develop? Or is Russia going to find a friend elsewhere? That's my big question.
All right. Well, in fall of 01, what do you see, Adam?
A really strange decision by Jason Mastbaum in France to move Picardy to Burgundy rather than, I guess the idea was thinking that the German might support Italy into Marseille, I guess, but that didn't work out for him. But I guess that was the rationale. He must have sniffed something and just guessed wrong. But as a result, Germany is going to build 3, which is quite fascinating that Germany decided to move in this way and do this Holland to Belgium, Kiel to Holland while not moving to Denmark. That's really quite unusual. I might have expected Holland to Belgium and Kiel to Denmark to ensure that you're at least getting 2. So it sort of suggests to me that maybe somebody knew something was going on, or it was just a lucky guess on Germany's part. Otherwise, England goes north. So at least that's one thing France doesn't have to worry about. Italy convoys to Tunis. Austria does its normal thing. And actually, I think also meaningful is the fact that Russia opts to take Romania from Galicia with support and bounce the Black Sea rather than taking it from Ukraine. So that's quite interesting. Suggests that maybe we're not going to see an immediate RT, at least. That maybe they'll figure it out, but there's still some distrust there.
And Siobhan, anything to add to that?
What immediately jumps out to me on this board is the English and the French players saying, whoops, okay, we bounced in the channel. Neither one of us managed to get the jump on the other. Let's just go somewhere else entirely. Which I think is very smart because you can spend seasons wasting your time there. Other than that, I think Adam covered it well.
Yeah, well, especially if England had any kind of knowledge that Burgundy was going to be taken. That's a great choice by the English player. So, all right, in the winter adjustments, we see England building a fleet in London and Germany building fleet Kiel and 2 armies. Italy's building a fleet Naples. Nicolas building a fleet in Smyrna in Turkey. Austria is building 2 armies, Trieste and Vienna, and we've got Russia building 2 armies, Warsaw and Moscow. Anything stand out to either of you with these builds?
I would say the fact that Russia did not build in St. Pete is quite interesting, right? And it suggests that he wants to have some flexibility, which means that John and Nicolas probably have not been communicating as well as one might have expected, or as they might have helped. They may have some different visions here in terms of what they want to do.
All right. Well, Siobhan, why don't you lead us off in spring of 1902?
Okay, let's take a look. There's a lot of movement here. Let's start in the West. The Germans shuffle some things around to kick France out of Burgundy. Not entirely surprising, tried to offer support to the English player into the Channel, which was not taken. Instead, the English player has decided to drop into Skag and Helgoland. Yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff. I think it does. I don't know who's working with who there, or if they're all just kind of doing their own thing. Meanwhile, in the East, we see the Italian and the Austrian attempt to move against the Turk with some success. The Turk could only bounce one of the Aegean or Eastern Med. He made his choice. And the Russian moves west with the Austrian, Bohemia, Silesia.
All right.
I really like what England's doing here. This is just, I think, a good decision to try to work with the French and the Russians against the Germans here. You've got France, who's already in a bind by having a German unit in France. So you've got easy loyalty there, and from this position, Russia is probably better as your ally. You can drop to Skag and do these kinds of fun things that you can't do otherwise. Now, I'm certainly not happy about seeing Moscow to St. Petersburg with all of this being said, and I'm going to have to work some magic to make sure that that's not doing something I don't want it to do. But you also have Warsaw to Silesia. I mean, you've got Vienna to Bohemia, which is sort of perplexing as well, but it seems a little early for that. But I guess why not? Maybe. So I like that. And the other thing I guess I would say is that Nicolas is going to have to figure out how to work with Russia here, or he's going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah. All right, and we did just get some news. It looks like for the second round of this tournament, the players drafted their powers in reverse seed order.
Wow.
So people with the lowest seed got to pick their powers first. So Karthik had a board top early on, so he had a good score, and that's why Austria was open to him at the end of it. So,
got it.
All right, so fall of 1902. Siobhan, I think this was you.
Alrighty, a lot of red arrows around Germany, excellent defense around Munich and Berlin. England attempts a convoy. Again, Germany manages to defend against that, but loses Paris. And I suppose he couldn't defend everything, which makes sense. Meanwhile, in the East, the Austrian continues his attack against the Turk, getting a little help from the Russian. And it looks like the English player did manage to convince John Anderson in Russia to take that army away, and they're friends.
Yeah, it's amazing with all of the guesses that England, Russia, and Austria managed to not take anything. But
it's kind of beautiful, yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, they took Denmark, which is technically should have been German at this point, I guess. So I guess it's progress in some regard. This is going to be looking like a tough game for Nicolas. He's facing the AIR, and that's going to be tough if he can't break them apart.
Yeah, but maybe good news for Karthik.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, in winter of 1902, John builds the fleet in Sev. So more bad news for Nicolas. We've got an army in Trieste for Karthik in Austria. Jason builds an army in Marseille. Perhaps he will take Portugal this time. And I think that's it. Anything stand out to anyone?
I'm not a big fan of the Fleet Sev personally, unless some very special situations. I don't think you need it here. Actually, I mean, it will certainly make Turkey go down faster, but it's such an inflexible build and so problematic later in the game when you actually need more armies in the middle that, for me, I would have preferred to see an army in Warsaw or maybe even a fleet south coast of St. Petersburg. I think might have been more helpful, but again, I certainly understand the rationale for it and it may work out.
Well, if he could talk his way into perhaps picking up Khan or something like that, making sure that he gets more of the Turkish centers than Austria, maybe it'll pay off. That could be nice in the long run. I would not like it if I were Austria, though. Yeah. All right, spring of 1903. Adam, why don't you lead us here?
Sure. France once again is showing us why it is such a hard country to crack and why sometimes these early attacks just do not pan out. And we can see that here, and it's greatly to the expense of Germany, right? Getting pushed out of Burgundy, gets to go to Picardy, but France has a pretty easy time covering everything he needs to cover. England does make it into Belgium this time around. And again, I'm seeing why, I might have liked to see something either further north for a build in the north for the Russian, because now they're kicked out of Denmark and potentially going to be pulling something.
Siobhan?
Yeah, 100% agree with all of that. I'm loving the number of convoys I'm seeing around the board. England convoys his army onto the mainland. Italy convoys the army in Albania.
I totally neglected to comment on the Austria-Italy situation. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it's
we got an unwanted support. We got an unwanted support to Vienna, too.
Oh, that's what that was. You're right.
Yeah.
He was trying. Oh, all right. So Tim Richardson, well done. That's two very sneaky little things to an Austria who I believe thought he had you on board for a little while longer. And meanwhile, Nicolas pulls the army back, knows he's going to lose Khan, does the best he can to defend for as long as he can.
Yeah. Well, and I will say Jason not only has taken advantage of the defensive position that France offers, but also just done a good job diplomatically as well. So good job.
The East is super slick. You've got Russia pushing Austria into Turkey, and you've got Italy pushing into Austria. I mean, this is very slick, and this is going to work out very well for John as long as he doesn't get jacked in the north to the point where he's playing a one-fronted game. But this could work out very well for him, and I like what Tim is doing as well.
All right, well, fall of 1903.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fantastic turn for John in Russia. He picks up Ankara, he picks up Serbia, He lost Denmark. That's okay, and it looks like that may have actually been agreed after all because England was trying to move into Kiel. So and he didn't really make a move to retake it. This is just a great position. Turkey goes down one, but Austria doesn't go up from Khan because Turkey manages to retake it, and Italy gets nothing. So yeah, well done, John. France picks up Portugal finally. So it looks like it's EF in the west and IR in the east.
Yeah. I think the only thing I'd add to any of that is that it looks like Tim Richardson got a little bit greedy and tried to play for both Greece and Trieste and got neither when he could have guaranteed Trieste for himself.
Good.
And what we wind up with then is an Austrian who stays even but had a unit piffed, so gets to rebuild in Trieste.
Yeah, and I love the Italy-Russia alliance, but a lot of times Russia can get the upper hand there. Italy absolutely needs to make sure that they're getting their dots when they can.
The rebuild in Trieste is terrible because Italy has nothing in Venice. I mean, that's actually really problematic.
That's going to be a huge deal.
Yeah.
All right.
He doesn't get a rebuild because Russia took Serbia, right?
Oh, I forgot about Serbia. Never mind then.
It's still. I mean, you still want to have the build. I mean, that was still just a mistake on Tim's part.
Yeah, just better for John all around. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pause after Winter 1903, but let's go ahead and do the builds, and then we'll do a little Who Do You Like? So Winter of 1903, we see Evan continuing a pretty strong performance in the West in the early game with the fleet in Eddy and an army in London. We've got Jason building fleet Marseille. We've got Nicolas disbanding his fleet in East Med, and John using his gain in Serbia to build an army in Warsaw. Anything stand out here?
I mean, in terms of who would I like to step into the position of at this moment, John Anderson, 100%. That's just the strongest position on this board right now. I think I would have more fun playing the English position, though.
Yeah. Adam?
I would, yeah. I mean, I would totally agree. I mean, John's in a great position. I really like the English position. I don't dislike the French position either. I think, hats off to Jason after a tough start. He doesn't have a lot to worry about. I mean, he's really just got a solid way to go. He's got options. There's not a ton of immediate growth, but I mean, he should be able to get Belgium pretty quickly, and just have to make a decision from there. But I think he's in an okay position and has a shot here too.
Mm-hmm.
Note, Siobhan, why don't you lead us off with Spring 1904?
Sure. We've got a couple of fun convoys from John Anderson, which I always love. One over the Black Sea, one into Sweden. But not a ton of change on that front, aside from losing Serbia and Ankara. Okay, well, I'm liking that position a little less now, John. Come on. Meanwhile, in the middle of the board, there's a lot of movement. The Italian is pushing west. The German takes back Holland, and the English fleets are flipping around and down into the Channel. There's a lot of stuff that traded hands this turn.
Yeah, some interesting choices by England to drop into the Channel. It's not clear that that's specifically anti-French. It's certainly not pro-French, but it does, suggest that England has a lot of trust for Russia right here, which makes the convoy of Livonia to Sweden all the more puzzling, because if you guys do have a trusting relationship, why are you going up that way? So it suggests that either Russia is going to try to make a play against the English, or that Russia was just being paranoid. Man, how sweet would a convoy directly into Berlin have been, or even a supported convoy into Berlin?
Or just Silesia just going to Berlin.
Right, yeah, sure.
I mean, that's the least optimal of the options, but anything into Berlin at this moment would have been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be loving the destruction of that Ankara fleet and Serbia. I mean, it's not ideal for John right now down there.
No.
Well, continuing on in fall of 04, what happens?
So the Italian unit, which just got into the Serbia with the support of the Austrian, now gets kicked out of Serbia by the Austrian, who is supported by the Russian. So I think the Austrian is just playing whoever will help him, and well, gets a dot.
Gets 2 dots.
2 dots.
Gets 2 dots. Yeah. Okay. That's a lot of fun. So there's some mild help here, but it's nothing committal. Russia does take Berlin this turn, makes a swipe at Norway, doesn't get it, not shocked, and then a whole bunch of red bouncy bounce in the west.
Yeah, I really find the fact that Russia would be picking a fight with England at this point really puzzling. You know, I mean, if the convoy to Sweden was due to some paranoia, that's fine. But once you get these problems in the south, do you really want to open yourself up to more problems in the north at this stage? The other point that I would really bring up, and I think this is important for England, is England really made a mistake here in moving north to Norway. You've got an army in London. You should have convoyed that out as the means to.
Yeah. On the off chance that North actually got into Norway, you don't want to leave North Sea exposed.
That's right. And the army is doing nothing there. And if you really legitimately need to defend yourself against Russia, getting that army up there is going to cause Russia a lot more pain than just putting the fleet there. So I think that's just a tactical error. I mean, it didn't matter as it turns out, but it could have.
100%, I agree with you here, Adam. And it's a thing that a lot of players don't think of often, and I don't know how experienced Evan is. I think this is the first time I've seen his name is today. That you can use the army via convoy to protect a space, thereby keeping the fleet where it is without risking Black Sea or North Sea or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Especially territory as valuable as North.
What did English Channel do? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the move for that.
Looks like the channel went to Belgium.
Yeah, and again, like this is just bad unit use, right? I mean, you know, Paris covers Brest, Mal. I mean, for Mastbaum, I mean, come on, Jason. Jason, you know better than this. I mean, this is just.
Does he though? Does he really?
All right, I'll let that go.
I have to dig on Jason. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
Well, on that note, we get a English build of a fleet in Liverpool. Christian has, I'm not sure what the orange disbanded.
That I think was decided for him.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
I would guess.
So we lose 2 armies in the middle of the board, and we've got
invalid order, I'm told. Sorry.
Okay. Tyrrhenian Sea is disbanded by Tim. Nicolas builds an army in Smyrna. So anything. Oh, and then we've got Karthik building a army in Vienna. Anything stand out here?
Nothing huge. Just one further intel on Ruhr is he only had to disband 1, but tried to do 2. So the game decided which one he wound up getting to keep. Which in this case is Ruhr.
He's trying to end this game early.
It's, just get me out of here. I'm done.
I think the most meaningful build there is Fleet Liverpool, right? Because that's just a very clear sign for what England is planning on doing. I'm actually a little bit surprised that after Russia put that army up in Sweden and bounced Norway, that unless that was an arranged bounce, which maybe it was, but otherwise, that's strongly committing in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
All right, spring 1905. What do we see going on here?
I think it's Adam's turn to.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So France goes up to North Atlantic, which was not the right guess, but that's understandable. It does force England to have to use one of the units to cover Liverpool in the fall, perhaps. Austria marches down the boot. Let's see what else. I see in the comments that Austria had 2 builds, so perhaps one was waived as an alliance play with Russia, which Russia thanks by going to Galicia.
So not the right alliance play to have made here.
Yeah, I will also point out that the Russian did convoy out of Sweden now and leaving that position against England much more stable again. And England shows a lot of trust by not covering Norway and actually walking out of Denmark into the
Yep.
Helmand. So
It absolutely seems like England and Russia have figured out their issues, however twitchy they may have been over recent years. There's just a lot of realignment happening right now. The Italian and Austrian situation continues as Austria marches further under the boot. The Italian convoys back. I'm curious to see how the English-French fight winds up. I still don't hate the French position.
Yeah, and I think that an interesting thing too is with the Turkish move into Armenia and combined with the move of Russia into Galicia, are we going to see some coordination between Austria and Turkey?
I think absolutely.
that seems likely, and yeah.
All right, well, let's find out. Adam.
Sorry.
Well, okay. These things are interesting. We didn't read that exactly, did we?
No.
But good for Nicolas. He found the opportunity, and I guess this was the most attractive opportunity offered to him, and so he took it and takes Bulgaria via convoy over the Russian fleet in the Black Sea.
That's exactly what I was laughing about.
I mean, this required 2 Russian units to help him in coordination with that Galicia to Budapest move. So nice move by John and Nicolas.
I really, really hope that was planned with this move here. It certainly threw me off, and I could totally see 2 really good players be like, hey, we can hide this. Let's do something clever here.
We'll just be mad at each other for a season, quote unquote mad.
So either that or they just came with the good opportunity right here.
Yeah, and not to ignore the West in favor of the fun East, but I mean, you said that the move to now might have been a mistake last season, and I don't think it was, especially looking at how it turned out. He forced him to cover Liverpool, which he could do with the army, and but England chose to swing for Belgium, which is why he lost Mao. So that's just okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think now was a mistake. I thought it was a guess to see where Liverpool was going to go. Of course,
sure.
Irish Sea was guaranteeable by a support, but
yeah.
The going to now is certainly a nice move there, and I agree with you, Siobhan. He does the right thing here in supporting Spain up and staying up in AO.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. Hate to say it because it's Jason, but still don't hate the French position.
All right, winter of 1905, we see another disband by Germany in Munich. We've got an army build by Evan in England. We've got Tim disbands a Italian army, and we've got a build, I guess the pocket build from Karthik in Trieste. And Nicolas builds the fleet in Smyrna. John builds the army in Warsaw. Anything to stand out here?
I think, at this stage that Austria is going to make a choice as to who he's more angry at. And I expect it's Russia, but I could be wrong. And that could be to Turkey's benefit.
I think the late blooming RT is going to do some wonderful things.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, let's find out. Siobhan, why don't you lead us off in spring of 1906?
All right. Well, the late blooming RT, they lose Budapest for now. That was inevitable. Austria made the correct moves. That's how it goes. But Russia picks up Munich, which also was inevitable. I mean, I guess unless Kiel had tapped Berlin. Nicolas and Turkey marches the fleets west. Well done. And the EF fight. Okay, England gets to Picardy. But otherwise kind of meh.
I just want to highlight the tactical moves that resulted in Austria taking Budapest, because we saw this done incorrectly somewhere else on the board earlier today. And I know this, for experienced players, this is probably obvious, but I want to point it out for the less experienced players. The move for Serbia is actually critical here. It's a 3-on-2 against Budapest, which is Vienna, Trieste, and Serbia, against Romania and Budapest. But the fact is that Serbia can be cut here, right? So Serbia has the choice to make as to whether to support Trieste into Budapest. It could actually be the mover itself, but you don't necessarily want to do that. But assuming it's not the mover itself, you can either support Trieste in, or you can do what Karthik did and cut Romania. And that's the correct move, because as you look at it here, had Serbia actually supported Trieste in, this would have been a failed move.
No, 100%. And to piggyback on that, thank you, Adam, I said, oh yeah, he did the right thing. And I sort of moved on because to me, that was 100% obvious. There was a chance that he could have lost Serbia in this set of moves, but Budapest was always guaranteed. It was a spring turn. And the odds were that he was always able to get Serbia back in the fall while also keeping Budapest. So it was fun.
I think it's going to be interesting to watch what Tim does with this fleet in Apulia. I think Karthik's going to have a choice on how he defends the boot. It's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, Siobhan, talk to us about Fall of 06.
I mean, Karthik defends the boot exactly as he should in this moment, given that he's not at risk for losing Budapest. He just pulls Trieste back for a turn. It's not ideal, but it's what I would have done as well. He also picks up Bulgaria from Turkey. So the RT, that late blooming RT that I was looking at, did not last very long. And wow, Karthik, way to turn that around. It's, oh, I took something off of you. Now will you support me into someone else's unit so I can grow even more? So Karthik goes up 2, but only has 1 place to build. Meanwhile, in the west, talk to me about those tiny little arrows in the lowlands. Picardy to Belgium, Belgium to Holland, Holland retreats to north. Okay, so just a lot of shifting. England gets into Mao. That's fun. Adam, I'll let you.
Well, the net effect up there is Germany and England trade Belgium for Holland, which is, no great loss for England. Taking the Mao is obviously really super helpful for England. France had a guess. I mean, they didn't guess right. That's okay. I think what's the most interesting is about this continuously shifting alliance structure over in the east between Austria, Russia, and Turkey. And I'm not sure who benefits and who loses from all this. It's just, it's just kind of a mess to keep track of. It's diplomatically must be very dynamic, but I would imagine everybody's heart rate is really up because you don't know who's going to do what on a given turn. I think we've seen the structure change between AR to RT to AR to
it's AT, like
AT. I don't know, but
yeah.
This is a challenging situation. The only other thing I'll point out, the strange moves we see on the boot were essentially that Italy was thinking that Austria might try to self-bounce in Venice, and so they ordered Apulia.
They tried to order an unwanted support.
Yeah, they supported Rome into Venice, in which case Naples would have walked right into Rome, which would have been a great move. And Karthik, defended properly and just moved to Venice.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I keep saying I want that unwanted support. I want to see it because it's amusing to me when it's not happening to me. But
all right, well, the result of all of that is our winter 1906 adjustments. We have John Anderson building an army in St. Petersburg. We have England. This kind of breaks my heart a little bit. Worked so hard to get into Mid-Atlantic and then disbanded in Mid-Atlantic. Christian is disbanding the army in Ruhr, keeping the more fun option with the fleet. Mm-hmm. And we've got a Austrian build a fleet in Trieste. That's always fun to see. So, Adam, let's start with you. Anything stand out?
if Austria and Russia stick together, I don't see a lot of ways that Russia doesn't top this board unless that, if that's the dynamic that sticks together. Now, that dynamic has not been constant in this game at all and has not been stable for more than a turn at a time. So it very easily could change. But unless there's some way that Turkey and Austria get together, which I don't think is going to happen.
I don't think Nicolas works with either of them anymore.
Right. Unless AT figured out some way to work together, I think the dynamic is really blowing in John's favor here.
All right. Adam, why don't you lead us off in spring of 1907?
Yeah, and again, I think this is part of what we're this situation changes again. Right now, Russia's supporting Turkey again while moving to Armenia. Right. I mean, this is just. I mean, I'm not, John obviously has a very clear plan in terms of what he's doing. Sitting from this seat, it's hard to fully understand it. But this is a game where I guess he's counting on the fact that Austria and Turkey are so far removed from one another in terms of the way they're seeing the game that he can just have his way with both of them in some regard. The other notable thing is, John takes Norway, and there's not much that England can do about it. I mean, England decides to retreat to Skag rather than Barents. It's hard to necessarily argue with that if you're trying to make sure that, you have some guesses on Denmark. Certainly Barents creates some guesses up on St. Petersburg, but 6 one way, half a dozen the other, I think.
I love the commentary in chat right now talking about high heart rate, pulling out hair. This is the shifts of alliance structures going back and forth has been very entertaining to watch. I can only imagine the emotion. What I love here is Sev to Armenia while convoying it out. This is just beautiful. Siobhan, what's your take?
This game brings me so much joy and delight, and I think each and every one of you, and John and Karthik, I see you in the comments. You probably were close to some sort of heart attack situation. You're half bald by now. I'm sorry it was painful for you, but it's just such a joy for me. So thank you.
All right, continuing on, follow 7. Adam, were you taking the lead here?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. So. Let's see. It looks like England retakes Norway but loses Denmark. But they've also taken Holland, so I think that England is probably going to build. It's kind of cool because England actually wanted to put Germany into Kiel, and it actually would have went because France cut Munich, but Germany elected not to do that. Ends up in the North Sea, but without any centers, so that is all for naught, unfortunately. What else? It looks like EF have their act together, and the North Atlantic is abandoned. France is sending the fleet south. We are working together here to stop some of this mess. And AR are working together again. Yay!
I was going to say, I think they were always working together. It was just, we'll convoy Nicolas over to Bulgaria in the spring. I promise we'll get you back in while you also take Naples. You go, it's genius. They take Ankara by.
Well, what is Budapest supporting here, though? What is Budapest supporting?
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh. Karthik. It's okay. It gets better. How does this? Wow. Okay. And I understand why he's doing it. I mean, we're in 07. We're probably getting close to some kind of time limit. If Karthik is looking to top this board, his ally, quote unquote, is the one to take down. So
it's good. It's good. Unfortunately, I think Austria's building and I think Russia's building too. Though Russia's probably going to be building in the north. So we'll see.
It is a fun game, and for our builds, we get.
Nope, we're done.
Nothing.
We're done.
It's over. Well done, John Anderson.
Good job, John Anderson. Wow.
Another board top for Mr. Anderson. Wow.
And a great game by Karthik. I mean,
Yeah.
This was a mess. This was a mess on so many levels. And, to come out as Austria with 9 centers there.
It's 100%. And wow. And Karthik is saying in the comments that he made a mistake here and should have double supported Nicolas into Romania. He didn't actually need to go back into Bulgaria. He already owned it. The Turk was only there in the spring. And that would have made, one center difference. He would have tied for the board top.
Tied top, yeah.
Is that true? No, it would. The extra dot would have gone to Turkey, not to Austria. So it still would have been 9 centered Austria.
Oh, it still would have been 9-10. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it would have changed the outcome. I think we have to give a kudos to Jason Mastbaum, who was under pressure most of the game.
No, we don't.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he wasted a lot of units making self bounces, so we won't do that. No, I
don't hate the French position.
Hung in there and did what he needed to do to have kind of a solid middling result. I mean, which considering how much under attack he outcome. England as well. Fought the good fight up there. So really well done, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I do want to point out this game ended due to time. So it was not agreed upon. So asking the question, is this the right result, is difficult understanding the time limit. But I would just say, with the understanding of the time limit, Adam and Siobhan, is this the right result?
I think it's as good as it could have been. There was a lot of play left on this board. I would be interested to watch it go another few hours, but it may only be 8 p.m. for me, but it's much later for a lot of other people around the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see this getting a lot worse for the Russian, but because if France is coming south, that's more to the detriment of Austria than it is Russia. So.